Has anyone heard some of these songs, by the way, at least Fanfare for the Common Man or so? Yeah, okay, good. Maybe some of the other ones that you've heard as well. I couldn't resist this, I'm sorry. This is from a 1993 album that Eagen-Jones put together. This was basically their greatest hits album, Return to Manticore. And just, all right, here we see something that really, for me, encapsulates the concept of progressive rock. Here they are sitting around, poring over notes. I can't think of an album cover that we've looked at to date that featured notes anywhere. So, okay, everybody knows who this is, right? Okay, this is Beethoven, and this is one of the most famous portraits of Beethoven, and like, doesn't it look the same? I just thought, as soon as I saw it, I thought, it's the same concept. Okay, here's another example of an ELNP song, and what I would really like for you to focus on here, we mentioned that the synthesizer is really a central feature of progressive rock. I'm going to play this clip for you, and I really want you to listen closely to how you know, the role that the synthesizer is playing, how it sounds, the kind of the wide variety of sounds that it produces, and really the central role that it's playing in this clip. So you're going to hear a couple of excerpts of the song "Lucky Man." Really, the part of the synthesizer comes to the fore.
And ladies like stars, all dressed in satin and waiting by the door. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. Ooh, what a lucky man he was. So I mentioned the importance and the value of the synthesizer in this style of music. Does anybody know exactly what kind of synthesizer we're hearing there? The name of that is? That's called a Moog. And to the best of my knowledge, this is the first song to feature the Moog to this extent in context. The Moog is a super cool instrument. It was developed by Bob Moog in the mid-60s. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer was one of the first bands to really integrate it into their music and make it a central feature of their music. What is super cool about the Moog, up until this point when we've talked about studio effects, electronic effects, these kinds of things that are brought in by way of some sort of technology, what we've been talking about are acoustic sounds that then get manipulated through something like a pedal, or some kind of studio processing happens in the background. Professor Brackett mentioned how the Grateful Dead and other bands were using sounds that could only be produced in the studio and could not be produced live, or could be produced live only with great difficulty. The Moog really turns that on its ear by enabling musicians to produce live very quickly and to change a lot of the timbres that they're using in their tracks. What's super cool about this instrument is basically what it takes is a straight sine wave tone, a tone that is completely digitally produced, and then allows the musician to manipulate how that tone sounds by altering the shape of the sound wave and altering the shape of the envelope or the attack of the sound. Those are really the two essential features that impact what we hear as timbre. And so basically, if I was playing it, that's why if I was playing an oboe like an instrument, I would hear something that really emphasizes a fifth partial, whereas if I'm playing something like a violin or piano, I'm hearing fundamental and first overtones only. That's what makes those sounds so different from each other. This is a little video clip that I'm going to show you that talks about how the mode works, certain of the things that it could do that it couldn't do in its first iteration. It's just a really interesting sort of historical snapshot of what musicians had access to for the first time in terms of this instrument.
All these instrumental sounds were made electronically by one man, on a single musical instrument. It's called the Moog synthesizer. It produces sounds in a matter of minutes which would normally take radiophonic experts with their complicated equipment days of work and multiple re-recordings to achieve. The instrument is made up of independent electronic units packed together into a compact console. There are oscillators which produce the sound, filters, amplifiers, and envelope generators which shape it. The sound can even be automatically triggered. You don't have to be an electronics expert to play the melody. All you need is a good musical ear, because you create your sound simply by plugging into the right holes. When you've done this, they can be played on the keyboard. Sound is a series of vibrations which travel through the air to be interpreted by the ear. Here the vibrations are generated electronically by an oscillator, and a simple continuous tone looks like this on an oscilloscope. Each oscillator can produce a limitless number of tones. But sounds from a conventional musical instrument are not simple tones, they're a multitude of harmonics. On the Moog, the sound is made simply by connecting a second oscillator to the first, and then repeating the process until the new sound has more depth to it. By connecting several oscillators, the sound takes on a special quality, and any musical sound can be built up from basic components. Now, the continuous sound has to be shaped so that it has a musical form when it's played, and the unit called the envelope generator does this by controlling the way a sound starts and finishes. Some musical sounds are made up of fundamentally the same kinds of vibrations, but it is the shaping of the note when it's played which makes the difference between the sound of a piano and a flute. Once shaped, the sound can be played on the keyboard, which now controls electronically all the other units that have been used to create it. The keyboard range can be altered so that notes never heard before on a piano can now be produced. As well as short notes, non-continuous sounds can be played on the second keyboard by running a finger up and down a stretched metal band. This produces continuously changing voltages, which in turn produce changing sounds. The instrument is called a synthesizer because the sound of any musical instrument can be built up electronically. The composer need no longer bother with a room full of tape recorders and electronic equipment. His time can be devoted entirely to producing the music he wants to play. The the difference is that when it's finished, his original score looks more like an electrician's wiring diagram. But once you've finished plugging up the oscillators, you can play them an ordinary score. The days of a one-man band are back again.
All right, I'm going to skip this one for the sake of time, but